everyone, and welcome back to my Gravity Falls build series. So far in Animal Crossing, we have built the Mystery Shack, the Northwest Manor, and Little Gideon's house. And today we are moving on to our fourth build, which will be Soos and Abuelita's house. Soos is such an adorable, lovable character, and he is a crucial part of the show, so of course I couldn't miss out on the opportunity to build his home. Like I've mentioned in previous videos, we are focusing on interior builds first, and then we'll move on to the exterior of the island. I know people have asked, so that is the current plan. For Soos's house, we see 3 interior rooms in the show, and so I had to use my thinking cap for the other 3 rooms, but of course I made sure that the extra rooms made sense to Soos's character. With that being said, the 6 rooms we will be building today are as follows: the living room, the kitchen, Soos's bedroom, the backyard, Soos's break room from the Mystery Shack, and just for fun, the party room from the Mystery Shack where Soos was the DJ during the night, since Soos loves music. I felt like a colorful disco party would be a fun room to build. Plus, Soos's second home is the Mystery Shack, so it just makes sense. I could have created a bedroom for Soos's grandma, but I'd rather stick with areas that we've seen. Plus, I like adding references whenever I get the opportunity. Okay, seems like we have a wide variety of room types to build, and they took a long time to design, especially Soos's bedroom since it's cluttered with an abundance of items, but it was a ton of fun to design this house. Well, let's jump into our build and get started with our first room. Okay, we are first going to start off by designing the living room, which is the room you first see when walking into the home. We get to see this room a few times during the show, and the Pines family even spends the night in the living room after Gideon takes over the Mystery Shack. So I'm pretty happy with the fact that I was able to grab multiple angles of this space, and I did my best to implement as many items and references as possible. First, we are going to start with walls and floors. The floors are your typical wooden floorboards, and I chose this old board flooring because I like the worn out look and color this choice brings to the room. And for the walls, this beige Art Deco wallpaper fit perfectly, as the wallpaper from the show is this golden yellow color with a pattern very similar to this. I'll tone down the color to make it seem more warm in the room at the end, so it has a more yellow tinge to it, but the foundation for the room fits so well from the show, and it makes me so happy. Next, there is a round green rug in the living room, and I found this medium square green rug that fit the color and the size perfectly, so I think I'm going to use that in place of the round rug. The only round green rug I could find was this small vine rug, and it didn't fit this space at all, so square rug it is. Now I'm haphazardly placing some of the larger furniture pieces in the room, and we'll organize them once I'm done. This is a good amount to start with. And first, I'm placing this large dresser in the corner, where you typically see a larger shelving unit full of photos and porcelain figurines. I thought about using a bookcase in its place, but I didn't want 2 of the same pieces in the room, so the fact that this is wooden, bulky, can hypothetically contain anything, and allows me to place items on top of it works well in the shelf's place. Next, I place this short wooden shelf against the wall. It's the same height and color as the low wooden shelf you see in the show that also contains a ton of porcelain figures. And there's even a white porcelain bird included, so I absolutely love that. And I customized the picture inside to show a train, because Soos likes trains, right? Against the entrance wall, I placed a tall bookshelf, which you briefly see in the show, although it also contains other items besides books, but it's close enough. Time for the seating. In the living room, you see a big blue chair and a white tannish sofa with a floral pattern. The bluest, coziest chair I could find was this patchwork chair, and that will stand in for Abuelita's chair. As for the couch, I chose this white sloppy sofa because you see what appears to be a crocheted dolly on the couch in place of the clothing strewn about. Plus, I wanted it to look a tad messy, indicating someone used it to sleep on, which the Pines family did at one point in time. You see 2 round tables with dollies on top, very similar to these 2 side tables, one placed in between the sofa and the chair, and one which will be placed on the other side of the room. I also added another wooden table on this wall, as you don't really see what's placed on this wall, so I wanted to add more furniture so it's not so bare, alongside a little stool which we'll be placing an old radio on top of. Now that the bulky furniture has been placed in their spots, I'm going to quickly go through my inventory and select some of the smaller, more detailed items for this space. Let's begin by placing a photo of Apple on this table. Why do you have a photo of Apple, you may ask? Well, there are tons of pictures of Soos hanging on the walls and sitting in picture frames on the tables. And I felt like Apple was an overall good representation of Soos's personality. I mean, look at how adorable Apple is. They could be twins. I also placed this small portable radio in this corner so that the room could have some music. And next to the photo, I added this aroma pot because you actually see something similar to that, like an incense holder of some sorts on one of the tables. And I really liked the color and the size of this item. Next, I'm going to place a vase of purple flowers on this side table, as you see some purple flowers on one of these tables in the show. And on the ground next to the table, I've placed this white statue of a rabbit. I've added a lot of different white animals and dolls throughout this space to stand in place for all of the porcelain figures you see in the living room. The TV in the living room is an older red boxy television, and it's placed on top of a vintage TV tray, and so these 2 items fit absolutely perfectly in this space. Up next, I placed a white baby doll on top of the wooden shelves, and next to it I placed some jars of jelly as a reference from when Mabel shot jars of jelly sitting on the shelves with her grappling hook and splattered it all over this poor woman. The table in between the chair and the couch has a warm colored lamp placed on top, and I added 2 more white animals on top of the wardrobe to stand in for more porcelain figurines. Final floor item is this mini circuit car track. You see Soos playing with some toy cars in this corner of the room, so I wanted to make sure to include it. I'm really liking how the room is looking so far, and let's bring it all together by adding some wall decor. Now, most of the items on the walls are just various paintings and embroidery circles that I customized to various designs to bring interest into this space. Like I said before, the living room is usually full of various pictures of Soos from when he was little to current year, but I don't want to waste design slots on Soos photos, if I could even muster up a decent design, because I need to save these slots for the exterior of the island. So all of these photos will have to do, and I tried to make it fun by mixing up the placements and such. I also added a light switch and 2 different items that weren't paintings, a pair of shoes and a wooden paw print door plate sign. I placed them on this particular wall because you can see a wooden plaque of little handprints and some brown shoes hanging up, which I'm assuming are baby Soos's handprints and baby shoes. And I thought these 2 items stood in really well to represent what we see in the show, and I like hanging up some items that aren't just photos. Everything is in its place. Last thing to do is to turn on the TV and the toy cars to add some movement and light, add a bit of warmth to the space, and we are done with our first room. I really love how this room turned out. It is so warm and cozy, and I think I captured the feeling of the Ramirez living room pretty well. There was a dog statue that hangs out near the door that I had no room to place, and honestly, no good object to stand in for its place. But overall, I added the important items that we see, and it was so much fun to build. Let me know what you guys think, and if there's anything else you would add or change in this space. I've been writing down all of the amazing feedback and plan to implement a few changes in some of my builds thanks to all the awesome ideas you've provided. Okay, let's move on to our second room, which will be the kitchen. The kitchen is only shown once in the show, when Stan and the kids are staying at Soos's house because Gideon took over the shack, and Stan goes to the kitchen to call the twins' parents to let them know everything is fine, even though it clearly isn't. And we get to see that the state of the kitchen is dirty, dark, messy, falling apart, and has roaches. I was hoping to build a super bright and colorful kitchen, but I want to stay true to the show, so we're going to make it a tad run down and dirty, although Abuelita's kitchen deserves to be cute and glamorous, like her. Let's begin with the floors, where I chose this stone tile flooring, as her floors are white as well. And this flooring has bigger square tiles than the other options, so I found it's more accurate. And for the walls, I went with this old wallpaper option, as it's worn down looking, a bit yellowish, tannish in shade, and the color is close to what is depicted in the show. Time to add our main furniture pieces, and there aren't too many in this particular room, as it's much smaller and more simplistic. Not much is shown in the kitchen as well, so I did add a few of my own pieces to add more life to this space, which this space truly needs. First, we don't see the stove or cooking range in this kitchen, so I added this older system kitchen. It's a bit vintage, and everything in this house looks a tad older, as if it hasn't been updated in a long time, so I thought it went well. Plus, the light wood goes with the countertops I've chosen to use throughout this space. I then placed 3 of the island counters next to the kitchen system, since there are counters on this side of the room as well. And next to the 3 counters, I placed this hand washing area. You see a large standalone porcelain sink in the kitchen, and the closest item to mimic that was the hand washing item, and I think it fits pretty well. Next, we have a plain white fridge. Nothing too special, and I placed 3 more wooden countertops, 2 to the left and 1 to the right. In this little section to the right, you see a floating shelf with cooking utensils on top, so I figured I'd just add another countertop to place an item there and fill up this empty space. I placed a plant that looks a bit withered next to the counter, and the table and chairs were my addition, as you know, most kitchens have some place to sit and eat. I chose a dark wood table to stand out from all the light wood choices, and these simple brown folding chairs, as they went well in this space. Now that the foundation is set, let's add some smaller items to spice up this space. First, I placed this jar of cookies on the singular countertop, as Soos's grandma has been seen baking him cookies before. Dinosaur-shaped cookies, but cookies nonetheless. And on the countertops to the right, I placed a tan rotary phone, which Stan uses to call the twins' parents. And I placed a microwave next to it, which is also shown on these countertops. On top of the fridge, you see boxes of food, so in place of that, I just added this bundle of canned food. In this small, hard-to-reach corner, I placed a mop and a bucket as a little joke that it hasn't been used in a while, as it's all on its lonesome, forgotten in this dark and lonely space. For the back counters, I placed a toaster, a stack of dishes, and a roach, all of which you see in this area. I used the toy roach item to represent these bugs, and I have a few more to place all around the kitchen, as you see more than one roach, unfortunately. I placed a simple skillet on the stove, a revolving spice rack on the kitchen table, along with an open can of food, and repositioned the remaining roaches throughout the room. All the detailed items are set in place, and now I'm going to add a few wall items, although the only thing we truly see is a broken portrait, but I don't want the walls to be bare. I feel like filling them out adds more definition and makes the room feel complete. First, I added this hanging plant that can pass as a dying plant when the lights are off, especially with its low, hanging light-colored leaves. I then positioned this ventilation fan above the cooking area and placed a simple pot rack above the countertops. The next wall, I added some dry flower garland, sticking with the dead plant theme, but also they're pretty at the same time and add some much needed cuteness to the space. I also added a simple portrait. This wall contains floating cupboards in the show, so in place of the cupboards I added 2 wall shelves with various bottles on top, which adds a bit of color, a hanging knife rack to add more utensils to the space, and a simple clock. And on the final wall, I simply added 2 more strands of the dried flowers. That does it for all the items in the room. Now let's turn off the lights as we see the kitchen with no lights on in the show, and I want to capture that feeling. And for the final touches, let's add some effects to this space. I added a bit of the zap effect on the toaster since you see it malfunctioning, and I added a steam effect on the stovetop to make it look like something's burning. And with that, our second room has been completed. The kitchen turned out just like I envisioned, and choosing to keep this space dark and dim makes it stand out amongst the other builds I've previously done. It's not a super important room as it really isn't utilized in the show, but I'm glad I included it. I think Soos needs to use his handyman skills to fix some of these appliances though, or maybe they're busted because he tinkered with them a bit too much. Nothing a bit of soap and electrical tape can't fix. Next, we'll be creating Soos's room, which was the hardest room for me to build in this house and took the longest to create because it's such a cluttered space with an abundance of items. So let's exit the kitchen and move on to room number 3. Soos's bedroom will be located across the hall, and get comfy everyone. This is the longest room build in the house. But it was also really fun. Soos's bedroom is very tiny and cluttered and dark and has toys and posters and technology and trash everywhere. I wasn't able to include every single reference, and I had items left over but absolutely no place to put them. But I did my best to include a lot of the important objects and did my best to capture Soos's lovable personality in this build. We'll start with the floor, and the choice I went with was this green rubber flooring. Soos has what looks like to be a dark green carpet in his room, so this was the closest flooring choice that fit. Next, I used the same wallpaper from the living room, as it's the exact same pattern and color in his room as well. Now I'm going to do things backwards. Usually I add the wall items last, but we're going to add them first because there are a ton of items on the walls, and once I start adding the furniture, I won't be able to walk around and move or add things like the gyroids, which need to be turned off, and I need room in order to do that. And because of that reason, I'll be adding the gyroids first so that I can shut the little guys up. Soos has a lot of shelves with various toys on top, and so in place of those shelves, I'm hanging gyroids up on the walls. It helps to lengthen the room, add some variety, and stands in for the much needed shelving since the gyroids are on shelves when you hang them on the wall. Also, the little blue gyroid is quite similar to the weird bluish pig hybrid toy he has on his computer shelf. Other items Soos has on his walls are posters, and quite a few of them. I added a tiger villager poster to stand in place for the tiger fist poster he has on his wall, as well as various villagers that portrayed samurai, fighting, video game, racing, wrestling, and music. All things Soos really likes. I also added some larger posters, including a fossil poster since he really loves dinosaurs, and a frame poster of pizza, which is self-explanatory. Next, I have quite a few clothing items to add to the walls. I added this western shirt as a reference to the pinball episode, a wizard's hat, and a sword to the wall because Soos likes to LARP, or F-clorp as he says, although there are no cardboard pieces I could find, but this works as well. Plus he loves fantasy in general, so it's fitting for Soos. From there, I added 3 headpieces, a luchador mask, a samurai helmet, and a fox mask. Soos likes anime, he likes samurai and ninja stuff, based on what we see in his room, and he went as a luchador for Halloween. Plus, he always envisioned his absent father was a famous wrestler, but this mask is blue to go with his full luchador Halloween costume, which was blue and green. So we'll add a red luchador figure later on to represent his ideal father figure. Last clothing items to add on the wall are Soos's signature Mystery Shack shirt he wears all the time. This design I found on the design portal, and a custom design I created of Melody, Soos's girlfriend, because of course I had to add a Melody reference. I love Melody, she's adorable. I designed the ham hat she wears when Soos first meets Melody and she's working at Meet Cute at the mall, and I figured this design couldn't be too difficult to create. Well, knowing my design skills, it came out pretty average. Not great, but not horrible. It looks better in pixel form than it does on the actual hat when you hang it on the wall, but overall, I'm satisfied with it. Let's spread everything out and place a few items in their show-accurate spots. I placed 2 gyroids above the area where the bed will be placed, as he has a hanging shelf with some toys, 2 sets of gyroids above the area where his computer desk will be. The tiger poster was placed where we usually see it in the show. I placed the Mystery Shack shirt and luchador outfit up where we see some sort of clothing item hanging on the wall, and split the rest of the items up on the other walls. I also added a hanging glider bird airplane thing, ornithopter I think it's called, to the corner of the room to add more height, and it just seems like something Soos would enjoy having. It gives the space some movement, albeit a slight amount. I adore how the walls turned out. So many fun objects and references, and now that we are done with this part of the room, we can start adding all the main furniture pieces. To start, I added a few bottle crates and shoe boxes to use as makeshift dressers and shelves, basically objects to place other objects on. You see a crate in Soos's room, so I felt the bottle crates were fitting to use, and I added the shoe boxes to add variety. Plus, you see a lot of trash and clutter scattered about, and I felt like the shoe boxes were more pleasant to the eyes to use rather than plain old cardboard boxes. I also didn't want to load up this space with a ton of wooden furniture because it'll contain too much brown and start to look very one-dimensional, and switching up the surfaces adds a ton of color, texture, and story to the room. I added this large wooden computer desk to the middle of the room, and while I know the desk with the trash underneath would also be a great choice, I felt it was too small looking, and this desk feels more like a true, sturdy computer desk. I added a TV tray next to his desk, as you see he has one with a small TV on top, and another pile of shoe boxes. Next, I added a wooden chest alongside this wall that looks similar to the wooden chest that we see in his room. I also added a tool cart, which is something I believe Soos would own, and another bottle crate, which we actually do see in this area, that holds a microwave. Soos's bed is a simple wooden framed bed with blue blankets, and I like the messy nature of this option. Plus, it has a little book on top, which we can pretend is Soos's diary that his grandma likes to read, because I had no extra room to place a diary, so that's what I'm pretending it is. Next, I added a wooden chest next to his bed. We don't see any furniture by his bed, but I wanted to add something to this empty corner, and it allows me to place 2 more items on top. It's also standing in for the length of the shelf that's usually on the other wall, but in its place, I've chosen this smaller wooden end table because it contains books, which the longer table contains in the show, and I have a lot of smaller detailed items to add near his bed, so I needed the extra space. Finally, I added this beanbag footrest item alongside the end table as another surface, and I liked its short height and the pop of color it brought to the room. Now that we have the basic foundation of the room, let's add some smaller detailed items to finish off this space. And I added as many as I possibly could fit. I wish I could have fit more, but it is what it is. Well, let's start organizing all of these items. And first, I placed this white microwave on top of the blue crate like we see in the show. And to the right of the microwave, I placed this mini fridge. It's hard to make out in the screenshots, but I'm almost positive he has a mini fridge in his room to the left of his computer desk. And since his room contains a microwave, a mini fridge just makes sense. On top of the shoe boxes, I placed a large stack of model kits. I really like to add objects that create varying heights in my room builds, and this object helps to accomplish that. But also, Soos has various toys in his room, so I could see him building model trains. I added this long katana display on top of the dresser. You see a large katana on top of Soos's computer desk with a signed picture from a ninja, and I really liked it. It's a large item, it's different, it stands out, and so I wanted to include it, even if it takes up 2 spaces on the dresser. And next to the dresser is a large, simple standing lamp, similar to the one in his room. Okay, time for another one of my not so great, but not super terrible custom designs. I did the best I possibly could with the small amount of pixel art knowledge I've obtained, and any and all online tools I had access to create Giffany. I knew I had to create Giffany in this room. How could I not include Giffany? That's insane. She looks okay. Her eyes need a bit of work. They look a tad funky, but this took me forever. But if you look at her in pixel form, it looks pretty good. But when it's on a design, the colors and everything kind of melt together and she gets a bit blobby. So I'll try to fix her up a bit down the road. But hey, if any of you guys are exceptional at pixel art and would like to donate your skills and create a Giffany picture, I'm not opposed to using it. But yes, we have good old Giffany hanging out on Soos's computer where she's the happiest. Moving along, we have Soos's white headphones sitting next to his computer, and I added a stack of books on top of the other crate to represent all the books, comics, and papers you see scattered throughout his room. On top of the end table, I placed this digital alarm clock, which he does have over in this corner, and on top of this box stool, I placed a pizza. You see a pizza box with slices of pizza throughout his room, so I wanted to add a pizza. And I didn't just want this whole pizza on the floor, so I used this tiny box stool to prop it up, and it allows Soos to gain easier access to this delicious meal. On the top shelf of his computer desk, you see a giant green dinosaur, so I included one, but placed him near the pizza, and on the floor in front of Soos's bed, we see a cooler and a toolbox. From what I'm able to see when Soos's room actually has access to daylight, the cooler box looks blue and the toolbox looks orange, even though it probably is red, but I went ahead and chose orange. Soos has a picture of his Abuelita on his computer desk, which is so adorable, so I wanted to add a picture of her in this space. And I feel like Frigga was a pretty close match to Soos's beloved grandma. She's adorable, looks like she's wearing a yellow apron, and has that unbothered look to her. Next to the photo, I placed this toy wrestler. You see a toy wrestler in his room, and I chose this one in particular because of the red mask, where Soos imagines his ideal father figure to be a luchador with a black and red face mask. We're almost done, guys. We're almost done. Next, I added some music to the radio, and I had a hard time deciding between making the music fun and peppy like you hear in the Romance Academy game, or a bit creepy but still have that video game vibe. And I went with the latter and chose this song that had a creepy 8-bit game over vibe to it. I thought it fit the space well, especially since Giffany will be the focal point of the room once the lights are off. I simply placed the radio on the shoe boxes next to the computer and placed this red and yellow rug towards the entrance of his room. If you look at the show, he has a rug with very similar patterns and colors, so it was a perfect fit. I then scattered some dishes, various snacks, pit cola cans, and laundry on the ground to create a messy environment. From there, I added the zap effect to the computer, which is shown when Giffany escapes the computer to search for Soos. Last few items to add are a computer chair and Soos's famous keyboard. I had to include his keyboard. The computer chair is both green and yellow when shown in stills, but I went with green as that's the color you see when it's daylight in his room. And his keyboard is leaning against his wall next to the doorway, so I'll keep it in this area. I forgot to add one pit cola can, so I'll quickly do that. And all that's left is to turn off the lights to really capture the atmosphere of the room. I want Giffany to be the main attraction when you enter, the focal point that your eye immediately is drawn towards. And once the lights are off, I think the computer does just that. It draws your attention. I did add a bluish tint to the room instead of just turning the lights off completely. You know, when a TV or computer is on in a dark room and it casts a slight light throughout? That's what I was going for. Now we are done. This room took me a long time to design and gather items and lay out everything properly, and I constantly changed my mind every few hours on whether I liked something in the room or not. With all that being said, this was my favorite room to design in the house. It's full of so many references, and I think I did a pretty decent job capturing the room's feel and recreating it to scale. I absolutely love the final results, and I think Soos does as well. We're halfway done with the home build, and next we'll be moving on to our fourth room, which will be located in the basement. For our next build, we will be building the backyard, specifically set in the time during Soos's 12th birthday party. And compared to our last build, this one is relatively simple. When the twins go back in time to figure out why Soos hates his birthday, you see a party set up in his backyard. And since the backyard is an extension of a home, and there are steps leading downstairs from the house to get to the backyard, I felt this was the perfect room to create. Plus, this party is an important moment for Soos, and I love referencing different episodes throughout my builds. I already gift wrapped a few presents that will be on display for his party, but yes, let's go ahead and start. We're going with a simple grass flooring and a backyard fence wallpaper, and lucky for me, the fence is a white wood picket fence in the show, so this wallpaper fits really well. Next, I'm going to add the tables and chairs. The backyard contains a wooden picnic table, one that I'm assuming is there year-round, and a table set up for the party. For the picnic table, I went with 2 log benches and a log dining table, and I really like how it looks. It fits well in this space. The party table in the backyard has an orange and yellow checkered cloth on top, and the closest design I could find was this red checkered tablecloth, so it's close enough. You also see basic wooden chairs near the table, so I added 4. Next, I added the presents to the tables, 1 on the picnic table and 2 on the party table. Also, I forgot to add an accent wall to this back wall, which is meant to be part of the house, since we are stepping down the stairs into the backyard, so this wall should represent the outside of the home. The house has light wood paneling, and I was between the wooden knot and the wooden mosaic wallpaper. I initially went with the wooden knot, but I think I like the other one better, so I may change it in the future. I added some party garland, which you see set up in the show along the exterior of the home, and started adding some of the smaller items. The backyard is surrounded by pine trees, but I can't add pine trees indoors, so I wanted to add some sort of large potted plant to add some greenery. You see a flamingo in the backyard as well, so I added the cute little guy in the corner, along with a birthday sign to add some more birthday decorations in the yard. There is a wound up garden hose on the outside of the house, so I placed one by the potted plants and added a baseball bat and glove near the sign because it seems like Soos has always wanted to play catch with his real dad, as indicated from his fake dad in Weirdmageddon. I then added a few snacks to the picnic table and added some balloons, because every party needs some balloons. You see a bundle of balloons in the corner of the yard, and a red balloon that Soos ties to a chair, saving the seat for his dad, who never shows up. Final item, we need to add a birthday cake. And while I know there is a birthday cake with candles in the game, I wanted to try and find a cake with blue icing, since Soos receives a birthday cake with blue icing. And I found this really awesome design while browsing the design portal, and it looks awesome. People are so creative. Look at how cute this is. An adorable cake on a plate. I'm going to keep the lighting as it is since it's a bright and sunny day on Soos's birthday, and let's go ahead and add a soundscape to the room. I was going back and forth between the park and the forest soundscape. I liked both, but the park had too many city noises, and the forest one was more relaxing. Last thing I did was add some cute butterfly effects to this plant, as I liked the movement it brought to the space. And look how cute it is. It's adorable, and I haven't had the chance to use that effect yet, so I gave myself permission to do so. And we are done. The fourth room in the home is completed. I hope you guys like this room, and like I said, it's very simple. But simple isn't always a bad thing. With the backyard being complete, I have officially designed every room we see in the home. So the last 2 rooms I borrowed from the Mystery Shack because Soos kind of lives there. He's there all the time. With that being said, we will now design the last room on the main floor, and that room will be Soos's break room. So let's head upstairs. So this room is kind of special as it currently functions as Soos's break room at the Mystery Shack, as seen in the special shorts. But before that, it was Ford's room that was hidden and boarded up in the Mystery Shack. This room contained the blue carpet that caused Dipper and Mabel to swap bodies, and eventually Soos and Waddles to swap bodies. So I have 2 different time periods to draw inspiration from, although I am mainly basing this design on when Soos uses it as a break room. So things look a bit different than they did in the Carpet DM episode, mainly the smaller detailed items and the rug choice, which I may ask for help on in choosing a final design. Okay, first, walls and floors. Since we're in the shack, both the walls and floors are wood, so I have a few options. The wood for both is a tad lighter in screenshots, and I didn't really want to go with the wooden knot flooring, even though it's the only wood option that has matching walls. So instead, I chose the natural flooring option, and for the walls, I was between the modern wood wall and the wooden mosaic wall, and because the latter was lighter in color and matched the flooring a bit better, I chose it. Now let's go ahead and add some furniture, and we'll start with this side table where a simple TV will be placed. Usually there are 2 tables in this corner, but there isn't enough space in this small room to do that, unfortunately. And we'll add this brownish orangish couch. I'll get back to the couch discussion in a bit because I had a hard time deciding on what couch to use. I placed this footrest by the couch to add extra length to the seating area, and I can place something on top of it as well, which is why I really love this item. Against the back wall, there is a boarded up fireplace that is very light in color, so I'll place one here and extinguish the flame in a bit. And next to the couch is this awesome vintage dresser. It's a bit more black looking in the show, but when I customized this item to the black variant, it had numbers on it for some reason, and I did not like how it looked at all. So I went with this darker metal gray, and it's perfect. It looks so similar to the dresser / filing cabinet item that's by the couch in the show, and I always get super happy when I'm able to find near close duplicates in Animal Crossing. The wall by the doorway has a low dresser that is a reddish, warmer wood color, and the Nordic low board piece fit the length and height perfectly. When Soos takes over this room and uses it for his break room, you see a ton of toolboxes on the ground and on top of the dressers. So I added this tool cart as an extra surface. There's a wooden stand-up mirror in this corner, a perfect match. And finally, by the fireplace, you see a dark wood chair with yellow cushions, and this was the closest chair I could find that matched, but I think it works really well. We have the main furniture pieces, so next I'm going to add some gyroids to the wall and turn them off. Above this low table is a tiny shelf that had bottles on top, but when Soos uses the room, you see he's placed a red car on the shelf. So I added a red gyroid and this little alien looking gyroid as well, because it kind of reminded me of the shiny glass bottle that was on the shelf prior. And since I've added these little guys to the wall, I might as well add the rest of the wall items. Okay, quite a few things to go through. First, I'm just going to place all the items on their respective walls, and I'll explain what they all represent. On one of the walls, we see a red and white clock, so I'll place this above the door. It's usually above the door leading to the bathroom, but there is no place to put a bathroom here, so I'll place it above the entrance to the room. I added a basic light switch and a wall-mounted tool board, as we see one hanging in this exact spot. On this wall, there is an old glass lantern type of light hanging in this corner, so I added a simple sconce light. And since Soos is the fix-it man of the shack, I'd assume he'd have keys to various rooms and the golf cart. So I added a key holder as well as a broom, since he's often seen cleaning. And we see him sweeping this room at one point, so hey, why not? Next, we see a dinosaur tapestry and a cardboard sign Soos wrote that says, "Who's awesome?" We also see some Christmas lights strung about, but I'll get to that later. So in place of the dino and cardboard sign, I put an alligator doing kung fu and another poster of a wrestler, since we see posters in the break room, and one is of a wrestler. We don't get to see the wall with the fireplace after Soos turns it into his break room, so I added a few more posters of villagers that have his interests, and a cuckoo clock that Soos is seen fixing in the Fixing It with Soos shorts in his break room. Final wall, above this cabinet, we see a trophy that that belongs to Ford, and so I thought it would be fitting to add another award-type plaque to the wall. Next, I placed a portrait of Stan above the couch. Soos has a picture of Stan taped to the mirror. Obviously can't do that, so I placed the same portrait I used in the Mystery Shack build above the sofa, because Soos adores Mr. Pines and needs to constantly show that he does. When we first discover this room, Stan sees Ford's glasses on a table and quickly picks them up, so I wanted to add a pair to the wall that resembled his glasses, reminding everyone whose room this originally was. And finally, a poster of DJ KK, because Soos loves to DJ and loves music. Finally, we have a disco ball to add to the corner by the couch and TV, since Soos has one hanging up in that exact spot. Alright, walls are done. Now for the final detailed items. And I tried to incorporate a few items I couldn't fit in Soos's room in this room. First, I added a piggy bank. I wanted a reference for when Soos swapped bodies with Waddles in this room, and this cute little piggy bank provided that reference for me. I also customized a picture frame with a picture of Stan because Soos probably has more than one photo of Mr. Pines, and I thought it was funny. Next to the chair, we see a large black floor lamp. So I went ahead and added this one as it was the closest looking lamp from the show. And on top of the metal dresser, I placed this trophy. We do see a trophy sitting on this dresser in the show, but I added this one specifically because it is a fishing trophy. And we know at the end of the show, the two brothers go fishing together and leave Oregon for a while. And so I thought of all the trophies, this fishing one was the best fit. Next to the trophy, I placed a simple cassette player that I added some fun music to, and added some snacks to the room as well, a bag of chips and a large bottle of Pit Cola, both of which you actually see placed in this room. Soos loves his snacks. No matter where he goes, he'll be sure to bring them. You see a red cooler in the room and an old box TV on the table near the couch. And coming back to the Christmas lights hanging on the wall, I thought it would be cute to add a Christmas tree. I wanted to add the Christmas lights one way or another, and they're on and flashing in this tree, and it brings much needed movement to the room. And I can see Soos leaving up a tree all year round. I leave my tree up later than most. I think it looks pretty. On top of this dresser, I placed some paint cans and cords, things Soos would be using on a weekly basis, I'm sure. And I added this smaller, more portable red toolbox on top of the bigger toolbox, because yes, there is a smaller red toolbox in his break room. Next to the toolbox, I placed a fire extinguisher, an important tool in any maintenance man's arsenal. And finally, I added this Nintendo Switch because you see a lot of game consoles in Soos's room, and I couldn't fit it in there. Plus, he loves video games, so it fits his personality and many interests. Okay, I am done with all the items except one, the rug. Another dilemma I have along with the couch, which I'm going to ask for all of your feedback. So when Soos occupies this room later on, there is a smaller square green carpet, and so I've decided to go with that because I'm basing this room off of Soos using it as a break room and not the original look. That being said, originally, this room contained the giant blue carpet that switched people into other people's bodies, so I thought that would be a cool reference to add. And this large blue rug is a shag carpet, so it is pretty fitting. Only problem is it kind of takes up all the space in the room. It's almost too big. There's also this green shag carpet, but I'm in between the smaller green one that's in Soos's break room or the reference to the blue switcheroo carpet. I also went back and found some orange couches that are more similar to the shape and size of the couches in the show. The only thing I'm not fond of these couches are the black border and the fact that it's right up against the furniture. But yeah, let me know. Do you like the tan comfy couch or the orange long couch? The small green carpet or the large blue carpet? I'd honestly love to know your thoughts as I cannot seem to make up my mind. But for now, I'm calling this room completed. I hope I did this room justice while adding touches of both of the stands and of course Soos. I really like how it turned out, and it seems like a really cozy place to chill and relax, and I tried my best to really capture this space accurately while also adding some fun and silly items. The last room we will be building is another room from the Mystery Shack, and this one I just wanted to have fun with. So let's head to the top floor of the home and begin building our last room. Okay, so our final room is what I'm going to call the dance party room, the disco room, the DJ room, something in between. For simplicity's sake, let's call this the party room. And I'm taking inspiration from the Double Dipper episode where Stan hosts a party at the shack, turns a room into a colorful dance party, and Soos is the DJ and host of the whole party, and he does a great job and really seems to like it. And because he was the main one running the show, and of course he wants to practice and get better for next year, he converted an empty room upstairs into his own little dance party. That's what we're going with, people. I really wanted to reference that episode in some shape or form, and the empty attic space provided me with that opportunity. So let's get building. This room isn't too crazy heavy on furniture or smaller items, as the lighting provides most of the vibes. So since we see a disco ball on the ceiling and see it shining on the walls and floors throughout the night, I had to go with this fun wall and floor combination. It enhances the party vibes. Next, I added some natural wood square tiles. The flooring is originally wood with a temporary dance floor added on top, so I wanted to section off the DJ area with these wooden panels. I tried to border the room, but it just looked a tad too busy with everything else added, so I just opted for this small section instead, and it works. It acts as a sort of stage for Soos. Next, let's add some of the larger pieces of furniture. First, we'll place this balloon arch towards the back wall and turn it around so we don't see the year. We see a balloon arch next to a long white cloth table, which I will also add, where Stan is seen grabbing some food, if you want to call it that. Next, I added 2 bubble machines in the back next to the balloon arch. This is my own addition, but it's fun and adds some more movement and energy to the room. Against this back wall, I added a brown, messy couch since we see one near the dance floor, and we also see some white folding chairs throughout the space for people to also sit and relax on when they need a break from dancing. So yes, plenty of seating options available to everyone. Now let's position the speakers and all the musical equipment. We see a mic stand, 2 tall speakers, a DJ table, Soos's keyboard, and a karaoke machine all up on the stage where Soos is hosting the party. So I made sure to add each item near the stage area. The karaoke machine is used when Pacifica and Mabel face off to win the party crown at the end of the night, which was a completely unfair and rigged competition. As we all know, Pacifica cheats at life because she's rich. And of course, I wanted to add a reference to that moment, so I added a crown on a little stool up on the stage for Soos to hand out to the winner at the end of the night. Next, I added a few snacks to the food table in the back, including some ice cookies that Soos really loves, especially if they are dinosaur shaped. I'll go ahead and turn on the bubble machines and add some fun dance music, and it's starting to really look like the dance party at the shack. It looks super cute so far. We have a few more items to add to really set the fun dance party tone I'm going for, and we'll begin by adding some really fun wall items. Okay, so on each long wall, I'll be adding 4 spotlights and 3 starry garland strands, and you see blue and pink spotlights getting turned on at the beginning of the party, and the room's lighting is shown to have shades of blue, pink, and purple throughout because of the lighting choices, so I needed to add some colorful spotlights. I added 1 string of star garland to the shorter walls as well, and the last thing to add to the wall is this deer bust above the sofa. You see a giant moose head above the sofa in the show, so I felt this was the closest relatable item to add in its place. Next, we have to add a disco ball to go with our disco walls and floors, especially since we see one on the ceiling, so it's a must-add item. Now, every party needs a few guests, and since Soos needs an audience to practice in front of, I thought it would be cute to add a few gyroids to dance along with the music and provide some feedback on Soos's DJ skills. I went with gyroids who had relatively pleasant sounds to listen to, ones that didn't overpower the music in the room, and I thought it would be cute to add some little fuzzy ball effects on them to add extra sparkle and shine to the dance floor. It's a subtle effect, but it's really cute. I then positioned them in the center of the room. Don't they just look adorable? What a pleasant audience Soos has. I then turned down the lights and added a light pinkish purplish hue to the room to match the spotlights and give it a more disco club feeling. And there we go. We have finished the final room build. And isn't this room just so much fun? I love, love, love creating energetic spaces such as this. And it brings more interest to this home as it isn't the typical type of room you'd find in a home. While yes, I could have made a bathroom or thought up of a bedroom design for Abuelita, this was way more exciting to build. And I feel like many of the fans will recognize these two rooms and instantly know where I drew inspiration from, and that truly makes me happy. Okay, so tell me, what do you think of Soos's build? Do you like my designs? Do you think I can improve in certain areas? Would you choose different rooms for this house, or maybe I missed a few cool references? Let me know. I adore the feedback more than you can possibly ever know. It's so much fun to read the comments, and while I may not respond to each and every one, I do see all of them, so thank you once again. And please leave a like on the video to let me know you'd like to see more builds. These videos take so much longer to create than I ever imagined they would when I first started this project. I have to create multiple Nintendo profiles, set up each house, play the DLC for each new player character, run back and forth on treasure islands for items, find screenshots from the shows and plan each layout, go through the entire Animal Crossing items catalog each time, and yada yada yada. You get it. They're time consuming, so any form of interactivity on this video helps me out tremendously. Oh, and let me know what couch and rug combo you like for Soos's break room. It's very important that I get a majority consensus on this design decision. Next, I will be building the local diner everyone eats at in the show, called Greasy's Diner, and it looks like it'll be a lot of fun to design. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you in the next video.